Hello there, my name is Bruce Rain from Brankus Creations. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live stream, for this live stream, at this live stream. I would like to just ask everyone to give me some feedback on the audio if you are watching. Of course, please say hello. Give me some feedback on the audio because I am using a different microphone. You might notice I've got this little thing stuck on my head with the little microphone going around to my mouth and like this. And I don't know, you might be just sort of listening to the sound of my heavy breathing. I don't know if it's how good it is. But anyhow, I would be very interested in your feedback. And to Mega, I say hello. And hello to Jay from the House of Moth. Matt OC, audio is nice and clear so far. That is what I like the sound of. So that's all good. So this is a bit of an impromptu one. I didn't give a whole lot of warning, so I apologise for the folks who sort of like to get the advance warning and stuff like that. But I'm a little bit yellow today, aren't I? They were all yellow. Look at the stars. Okay, I think that's a little bit better now. A little bit, yes, less yellow now. Gut Bomb, hello there. Okay, so yes, I had planned to do a live stream during the weekend, so it is Monday now. I planned to do a live stream on Saturday or Sunday, but I set up all of my studio gear to record some videos, some pre-recorded videos, and there was just so much to do, and all the equipment was set up, and it takes forever to set up all the equipment and tear it down again. So I was like, I'm going to try and maximize this recording time as much as possible. And I do a little live stream today. So Enzo Fitzhume, hello there. So that is why I am live streaming on an Australian Monday, US Sunday. I realise it's Sunday for lots of other places in the world as well, but I just mentioned the US because I know I have quite a few US viewers. So that's kind of why this is happening now. I've got lots and lots of stuff to do here. I literally have masses of work to do. I won't get through that much of it today. I'm probably just going to do the SE30 that I mentioned in the name of this live stream, but I have a floppy drive to service. I've got to set up and install an original spinner hard drive and a blue SCSI into a Macintosh Classic. So I'm going to have to probably design a bracket for that so that I can mount the bracket on the back or something like that. I've got a Color Classic power supply to do. Obviously got this SE30, and then I've got another computer which was working but then stopped working after ultrasonic cleaning, which means it's probably, something that was making contact before has been washed away by the cleaning process. Now, of course, that, it has to happen. It's not like, oh, look, the ultrasonic cleaning wrecked the computer. If you have sort of something that's only making contact by little strands of rust, you really need to find and diagnose and fix that. Thomas Armstrong, hello there. So once again, anyone joining now, I am using a new microphone, and I do hope that it makes the listening situation better. I hope it's nice and clear for everyone, and all that and everything. So, without further ado, I shall go and grab this SE30, which I normally put the board on the desk all ready to go, but I haven't done that this time for some unknown reason. But I know it's not far because I definitely brought it down here. I've also been doing a lot of this lately. People breaking their LCD screens for this one's a MacBook Pro, this one's a MacBook Air, and then I've got another MacBook Air up there. So I've been doing a little bit of this lately. I don't mind doing it. It's a pretty straightforward sort of job, and it makes people very happy because a lot of the time when they're talking about these sorts of computers, which they've only recently spent thousands of dollars on, when you sort of say, oh yeah, no, I can replace that screen, they're always like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, it's the cost of a screen, but it's still, it's still relatively small in comparison to the cost of a whole new computer, or more importantly, the cost of Apple repairing it. So I don't know what Apple will charge for a replacement screen here in Australia, but I can't imagine it's cheap. All right, here is the SE30. I can see it here. I plonked it right there with care and love. This one's even logged into the system. How efficient is that? I'm trying to get on top of things at the moment because I went to go send some repairs back to someone the other day, and I realised I'd done a job that hadn't even logged into the system, and that's just not good enough. unacceptable. A wee plastic bag. Obsidian Xenon, hello there. So let's just go to the top view here for a quick. There we go. It's a bit green, isn't it? What do you reckon? See if we can sort that out. We'll brighten us up a little bit maybe. Let's have a look at this gamma. No, there we go. And then let's pull some green out a bit. There we go. A bit more magenta. And for anyone who's ever curious about light and colour, you have subtractive and additive colour, and they are complementary to each other. So when you're working on a computer, if you add yellow to something, you are taking away cyan. I think that's it. No, adding yellow to something, you're taking away blue. So, okay. All right. Okay. There's this SE30. It appears to be in pretty good condition. It is a one of the later model ones. So the way we know that it's a later model one, it has this ceramic chip here with no little gold bit in the middle, and it is soldered to the board. It's not socketed. The socketed one is the earlier revision of this board. The other is that we have a capacitor just here. If this was the earlier revision of the board, that capacitor would be living down here somewhere. So very subtle changes to this one, but you know, the SE30 was sold for a while and they decided they would refine it. And one of the worst things about an SE30, of course, is the plastic tabs on the RAM slot, so it's always a little bit hair-raising when you have to remove the ROM and RAM out of these, because plastic, we all know what happens to plastic after a while. How's everyone going? Is it still stinking hot in the US at the moment? There were a lot of people dealing with some pretty serious heat by the sounds of things. Just curious. Yeah. Your mic sounds good. I am very, very pleased to hear that. Thank you very much to Jay Honeycutt. Yeah. We just have to make sure that it's like, with it being so close to my mouth, you can hear all my grunting noises and stuff like that. That could be a little bit unpleasant for people, you know. When I lean down to pick something up off the floor and I go, "Argh." Quite hot in most places right now. Boston is cooler than normal for now, thankfully. Oh, that's good. That is good. We're having a fairly warm sort of spell here at the moment for winter. Quite a lot warmer than the average. Still some fairly cold mornings, mind you, but the days are warming up to be beautiful. They basically feel like spring days, even though we're still in winter. Still got another month of winter to go, actually. Starting tomorrow, which is the 1st of August, that is the first official day of spring here in Australia. Now these here are all these little 2-chip RAM sims, and I would be willing to wager that these are all 1 megabytes. Sometimes the ones with 2 chips on them are 256, but these are 80 nanosecond chips. And typically when you're talking about 256 ones, they are usually slower chips than that. So anyhow, there's our RAM. So this probably has 8 megabytes of RAM in it. But let's see, 24 degrees C here. That's pretty good. That's about what we've been getting as a maximum in this part of the world at the moment. Today the top is 23. It's not that now. It's 19 now, but that's because it's early, early-ish. Took my cat down to the vet this morning to get its stitches out after being desexed 10 days ago. And I think she is starting to forgive me, but she was pretty cross at me for a while. Pretty darn cross. Okay. 75 here. That's, yeah. Good and clear. Excellent. All right, so here we go. This is the SE30. The caps we need to replace are obviously we've got 4 here, 3 here, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 down here. I can't remember how many that is. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. How about that? 11 caps. Then we will also replace these axial capacitors here too. Oh, that reminds me, I should have brought down my capacitor lead bender. I made a capacitor lead bender a while ago, but it wasn't very good, so I refined it recently, and the print is sitting on my desk and not down here. It's no use to me there at all. I released a review video over the weekend. I think I did it either on Saturday or Sunday, not sure, something like that. I reviewed a thermal camera, and I have to say I'm pretty pleased with it. Had a few reservations that I talked about, but in terms of a sort of budget thermal camera, I'm really pleased with it. Now, I am looking at this board with a bit of reflection coming off it, and I can clearly see the gunge on the board from the leaky cap, so that's to be expected. I don't think this one works, but I'm not certain of that because I'm pretty sure the guy who sent it to me, he was having power supply problems that he was resolving. So I'm not sure he was even able to test this because of the power supply problems he was having. I asked him whether he wanted me to have a look at the power supply, but I think I did. Or maybe didn't. Maybe I said, don't send that crap to me. I can't remember. It was one of the two. But he was basically saying that he's got that under control. He's bought replacement parts, and he is planning to do the power supply himself. Quite confident with working on the power supply. Just wasn't confident with doing the logic board, which is fine. Jack68K, hello there. Surprise stream. Yes, I like to. It's the element of surprise, like the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Okie dokie, little esoteric reference there for any Monty Python fans. Excuse me. Here's the 90s or higher in Eastern USA. Okay, so that's over the right-hand side. Yep, cool. I always get East and West mixed up. I mean, not to the point where I actually get in the car and drive in the wrong direction or anything like that. Just when someone says West Coast, I go, West Coast. Never have trouble with left and right. Have ever had trouble with left and right. You know, sometimes people, you say turn left and they turn right. Never ever had an issue with that. But east and west, yeah. Never had an issue with north and south, though, for some unknown reason. I don't know. I'm just weird. Just weird. Matt OC. This certainly sounds like it might be my board. It may well be. Assuming that, let me have a look. Do you recognize the serial number? Okay, let's have a look here. And, yep, Matthew OC, Macintosh SE30 recapping. There we go. Let's have a look here. I've got an SE30, this is the customer description of problem. I've got an SE30 board I'd like to send you away when you open that up again. Obviously talk about the repairs. It should just need a recap. It chimed before the PSU let out its magic smoke. There you go. So it did chime. So that's a good sign. That is a good sign. Chiming is good. So if it doesn't chime after I've finished recapping, we know I broke it. So thank you very much for joining, Matt. I will be sure to at least make it look like I'm doing a good job while you're watching. Frank S, hello there. Frederick Raymer, hello there. Artiste. Yeah, that's me, all right. Apples Anonymous, hello there. Quick visit. Yes, I can imagine. It is a work day, so there is. It's a work day where I am, and it's a work day with Nick is. So what are you going to do? So I understand that it's only going to be a short visit. Now let's jump across to the scope view. We're going to have to get these caps off. Had a very interesting thing recently where I was working on a Macintosh 840 AV. I was removing the capacitors with the hot air, and the capacitors were quite close to a chip with very, very thin little legs. And while I was heating those capacitors, a little bit of solder ball came out from one of those legs and managed to make a bridge between two of the legs. Easy to resolve, but it was definitely me being a little bit heavy-handed with the hot air. You know, a board like this where they're great big chunky chips, I have no issue with it, but with one like that has very, very fine little legs on the ICs, then it would have been prudent for me to get a little bit of heat shielding going on. Good on you, thoughtful. Okay, so let's get these off. Oh, I got to better turn this up because I've got that heat is a little bit slow. All right, I'm not too fussed about melting this capacitor, because he's going to be replaced anyway. I don't want to blow him up, but you know. Right. Oh, there's a smell. We're all familiar with that smell. Well, I won't say we're all familiar with that smell, but anyone that has ever recapped a leaky surface mount electrolytic capacitor will know that smell. Often been likened to fish. I can sort of see the similarity. Ah! He popped. Work hard for my money. So hard for it, honey. Alright, and one more little guy down here. Let's just move the little thing out of the way there. There we go. So I was talking about with those solder balls. We've got all these little solder balls just appearing in here and popping out there. The reason why that happens is this as the solder gets really old, it gets a crust over the top of it, and that what happens then, you hit it with heat, that crust doesn't melt, but the solder underneath it does, and as it expands, it starts just pushing little bits of solder out through that crust. Little tiny ones like this aren't going to be an issue. They're just going to be cleaned away with the ultrasonic cleaning, so not really an issue at all, but just always something you need to be mindful of. I've got a video about what to do when a recapping doesn't work, and that is one of the things. Check out, look for solder balls. Okay, so these caps have got to come off, but we're right next to a big lump of plastic here, so we're going to definitely need some heat shielding. Anyone who's ever watched my videos knows that I've done lots of SE30s, and everything I'm talking about here, like I'm doing it for the first time, you've probably heard me say like 60 times. So I got a message from someone the other day. He said, you know, are you recapping at the moment? I said, well, technically no. I'm just trying to work through the backlog, get all of the old repairs back to their owners as much as possible. It's a fine balance because those jobs I don't make any money on. In fact, I lose money on them. So I can't just work on them exclusively. I have to work on them a little bit at a time. And in the meantime, I then intersperse it with these straightforward recapping jobs. Straightforward recapping jobs that I can just do, get done, get in, get out, get paid, move on. So I do a little bit of the sort of slow repair job, and then I do these ones, you know, the easy ones sort of mixed in with them. So anyhow, someone contacted me the other day and said, I've got some SE30s to send you, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, we can probably do that. Four SE30 boards are coming my way. I'd say I love working on them, but I might end up getting a little bit sick of them after the third one. Oh, I remember that song very well. Grew up with that. That's my vintage. Just a reminder to everyone to always jump into the chat and say hello if you haven't. And of course, if you ever have any questions for me, please just ask. If I don't respond, it's probably because I've just missed it in the chat, which happens. Feel free to ask again at another time, or put the little ampersand Brankus Creations there. SE30 from eBay that I will be recapping. Good on you, Roger. That is what. Chris Angelis, hello there. That is the way to go. I mean, it was interesting. There was someone commenting on one of the. I think it might have been one of the. No, it wasn't. It was one of the vintage Macintosh groups, and he was basically saying he got hold of a Macintosh 2CI, an LC3, and an LC475. You know, and look, that's a great spread of 030, 040, you know, and I think, oh, they're, you know, great little computers to have in your collection. But he's like, oh, none of them work. And of course, everyone's just, you know, saying, dude, you know, you got to read up on this stuff. The these things will all need recapping. You know, don't muck around with them too much. Just get them sorted, get them to someone who can recap them and fix them and clean them, and you know they'll probably be fine. But he was obviously very new to the whole concept of recapping. I just melted the serial number a bit, Matt. Oh! Sorry. Look, melted the serial number a bit. Still read it though. You can always snip the end off there, make it look a little bit neater. Just got a Color Classic that won't power on. Is it true that you need to have a battery installed before it will start? No, it is not. That is a fib. That is one of the tall tales told about the Color Classic. There are lots of reasons why it won't potentially switch on. Obviously, one of them is, of course, the whole recapping thing. But it definitely, you know, Color Classics definitely need recapping. One of the main reasons for that is I've actually got one here, I think. Yeah, here we are. This one's, I think, had some. It's been rated for parts, but you know, I can still demonstrate here. The main areas of concern with a Color Classic board are here and here. They're the most likely things that will stop it. Now, of course, do keep in mind that one of the most basic things that happens with a Color Classic, and if you know it well and you already know this, that's fine. But I'm going to mention this because some people do fall for this. The Color Classic has a switch on the back. That is not the power on button. That is the standby button. So people often get caught out with the Color Classic. They get the power cord, they plug it in the back, they switch the power button on, and they hear like a you know, degaussing sound from the monitor, but then the computer doesn't start. And they're like, the computer's not starting. You do need the keyboard to switch the computer on. Keyboard into the ADB port and the power button pressed. Seen a few people get caught out by that. So it's one of the things that I always mention straight off the bat. I'm not saying it to say, you know, you may already know this, but it's just, you start with the basics and move on from there. But assuming, of course, that is the case, you're all good. What are they called right when you started? Dana, what is that where I am in the priority of your life? I come second to your mother? What's going on? Assuming, of course, that you do have the keyboard and you have switched it on properly. Geez, I'm doing a lot of hand talking today, aren't I? The main areas of problem on the Color Classic are around here. There's a capacitor there, and that has a tendency to leak into this, which is the EEPROM chip or the CUDA chip, and that is integral in the computer being able to start. That one there, pressing the keyboard button. Then you've got over here is the sound chip, and that can cause lots of problems as well because we've got 4 capacitors around it, and they can leak into that sound chip, and that can cause all sorts of problems. There's the reset circuit, I think, goes through the sound chip, so you can end up with things stuck on reset and stuff like that. But so anyhow, these are the things you need to have a look at. But you know, have the keyboard. No luck though. Yeah. So if it hasn't been recapped, you definitely need to get these recapped. The odds of a Color Classic logic board working without being recapped are very, very small. And then of course we do also have to keep in mind that the analog boards on those are a bit iffy as well, and they often have quite a bit of capacitor leakage in them as well. So that could be something you might need to look at as well. Does that mean the power supply is always working? No, it means the power supply has got like a little trickle 5 volt, little trickly volt thing. So when you switch it on, the fact that it does do the degauss, it's obviously, I don't know, that's something to do with the way it switches on. But if you were to get a computer like that, like the Color Classic, and you were to plug it in to a volt monitor thingy while it's in that standby mode, it's not using much electricity at all, only a tiny bit. It's virtually just a little tiny trickle amount of voltage to detect if you press the power button, and then it comes on. Shows vertical bars on display. Sorry, what are we looking at? I've just got to scroll back and see what we're looking at. Color Classic 2 that shows continuity across the OT. Just need it upside clean. I don't have a Classic 2 here to even test, because some of the boards, I've had this happen many times. Some of the boards, they do come up showing continuity across some of the capacitors. It's not much, you know. It's not like a zero continuity, but it's enough to make the multimeter go bip. And sometimes that's normal. I've had that happen on quite a few boards, that you go in and you get the multimeter out to see if you've accidentally done a short during recapping, and you find that an actual working board does make the continuity bippery go off. So I can't say for certain. I don't have a Color Classic 2 or an LC. Was it 520? I think they're the same. They're very, very similar to this one, of course, but they are a little bit different. I don't think I have one here at the moment to test for you. I think they're all just classics that I have here at the moment. This is my Color Classic pile here. That's Color Classic. What's that? That's my one. That belongs to Bruce. No, I don't think I have one. Sorry about that, but I don't think I have one at the moment. My apologeticals. Shows vertical bars on display. Don't think I've ever seen that on a Classic. Right, now, I changed from the scope view, didn't I? Let's go back to that. Got one more cap to remove. I've taken a really long time. I took all but one cap off, and then I just sat there and talked and talked and talked and talked. I was mentioning the other day that I have ended up with 3 Macintosh SE30s. I had one, and then I had another one, and I thought, I don't need 2, so I sold that second one. And then I had and then after selling that, I kind of regretted it. I thought, you know, I wouldn't mind actually having 2 SE30s. So then one came up and I got a second SE30. And then very soon after that, I got contacted by someone who I recapped an SE30 for. And he said, look, I'm just not getting into this hobby. Do you want to buy my SE30 from me? And I'm like, yeah. So now I have 3. One of them is kind of pretty much stock, other than having, it's got a network card in it. One of them I have loaded up. Does someone have a network card in it as well? Well, I think it does, but I don't think the network card works. The other one I've got loaded up with loads of RAM. So that one, it's got like, you know, was it 90-something megs of RAM or something in it. And that one also has grayscale. I think that's the one that I put the grayscale in. So one is grayscale, one is loaded with RAM, and the other one has a network card in it. So I'm definitely going to keep 2, but I may end up selling the third one. I want 2 because I want one with the grayscale mod and one as original. I was very disappointed to hear that Bowl, who made the grayscale mod and also did the 68040 upgrade, he's not going to make any more of those grayscale. Well, he might, but he's apparently got issues getting some of the parts for them. So, yeah. That's a bit disappointing. So I just need to reply to a message someone here. Sure. Someone just asked, one of the computers I repaired is someone asking if they could come and pick it up this afternoon. I'm like, yes, of course you can. So anyhow, Bowl, who made he made this grayscale mod, which is a combination of a graphics card that he came across, or a graphics card that he knows, and then also mixing it in with the Micron Exceed, I think that's what it's called, the sort of neck board, and he made a replica of it, and it works beautifully, and I think it's awesome. And I was going to do a video on it, but I've had a lot of trouble getting my production schedule sort of sorted out with videos lately. And then Sean did a video on it, so I'm not really sure I need to do a video on it, even though I might. And then someone contacted me and said, oh, I really want one of those. And so I said, well, look, get in touch with Bowl. And he did, and Bowl sort of said he can't make any more because he doesn't have the parts. And I was very, very disappointed to hear that. For some reason, my chat just stalled there. Are you taking on customers? Sort of. One of the biggest problems I have, I'm not really going to be taking on any overseas repairs other than like prearranged ones like Kai Robinson's going to send me one. And the main reason for that is that what happens is people send me, when I'm dealing with someone sending me something from overseas, to save on postage, they bundle a whole bunch of things up. So they might send me 4 or 5 boards at once to save on postage. That then arrives here. And so I work on it. 3 of them are no problem. 2 of them are, you need lots of work done. They get put to one side. And then I end up with this situation where I've got all this time and kind of money tied up in this bundle of boards, but I can't send the working ones back because it's going to then be too expensive because I'll have to split it into 2 deliveries. And so they just end up sitting here for ages until I can repair the ones that need repairing versus the ones that just need recapping. But I am taking on selected sort of repairing work by arrangement, but it is very selective. I'm pretty much not taking on classics anymore because they are just too problematic. And, you know, SE30s, I'm always happy to do these. I know these things like the back of my hair. Dollar bills. Hello, Nate. Standby voltage, but you set it decourse the screen. Isn't that high voltage? Yeah, I mean, it must just come on and do that for a second because you're right. I'd never really thought of it before, but yeah, you would think so. But I mean, like the fan doesn't come on or anything like that. You just switch it on and it does the decourse sound, and then that's it. So I don't know how that works. To be honest, I haven't given it any serious thought. So. Moved on from razor blades to aluminium. I've lost the razor blades. They're under the mess. So the thing is that I've got this roll of aluminium here that I can just grab when I lose the razor blades. Here's one. I found one. Ta-da! I still like these. I still like using these, but I do have a tendency to lose them. What was that? Message just came up. I'm just going to see who it's from, see if it's anyone important. Oh, dear, oh dear. Jay from the House of Moth making excuses as to why he's not here watching my live stream. Forever asking me to live stream and then forever making excuses for not being here. Tusk. Okay. Oh. I fell down. Oh no. I need to make more of my little 3D printed syringe thingies because one for this one's fallen out. I don't know where it is. I got a new 3D printer the other day. Just turned up at the doorstep. Didn't know it was coming. So if anyone out there is interested in 3D printing, I'm quite happy to talk about it. But for the moment, assuming, of course, that everyone here is bored senseless by 3D printing, I won't say too much about it. So we need to do some cleaning here. We've got all these with this crustiness. See how that crustiness? That's got to be gone. You're never, ever going to be able to get any new solder to sit on that like that. It's just not going to happen. If you tried to solder onto that, you would just have a bad time. "3D printing rules, yeah." So yeah, I sort of have an arrangement with Creality. I contacted them because I was doing 3D printing and I have a channel, and I was like, well, you know, how do you feel about teaming up? And so they were like, yeah, no, that's all good. So they sent me an Ender 5 S1 printer a while ago, and I did a review, and if you are interested in that review, it is in the featured videos and also in the reviews playlist of my channel. And anyhow, they were obviously happy with the review because on Thursday, I think it was Thursday, might have been Friday, I think it was Thursday, great big box at the front door. "What's that?" I said. Opened it up and found a Creality K1 3D printer in there. And I have already started working on that review. And I have to say, so far, that K1 is a little bit amazing. It is so fast that while it's printing, you actually feel like you're watching it in fast motion. You feel like someone's playing it back to you as a fast motion video. It's quite incredible. 16-minute benchy. 16-minute benchy. And it looks good. That's, I guess, the important thing. Look how shiny they are now. Is it quiet? No. Absolutely not. It sounds like you're living near an airport. I guess you have trade-offs, don't you? I mean, this is the whole thing. If you're wanting that real high speed, you're going to have a bit of the noise there. It's actually one of the reasons why I think when it comes to 3D printers, you do need to think about, what is it you're after? Are you after blazingly fast speed? Are you after quiet? Are you after a balance between the two? So a certain amount of speed with not too loud. And that's the joy, I guess, of there being so many different 3D printers out there at the moment. You can kind of pick and choose. Why I regret buying the K1. Dear. A very interesting thing going on in 3D printing at the moment. If you're not into 3D printing, I apologise. I'll try to keep this reasonably brief. For decades, 3D printing has been around for quite some time. For decades, it was an enthusiast hobby. And the reason for that was that there was not a whole lot of the, pre-packaged kind of, a lot of people were having to build their own 3D printers out of parts. 3D printing has become a lot more commercialized, and now, if you want to go out and buy a 3D printer, there are heaps and heaps you can buy. And if you need to get a new hot end, you just go grab another one. Back in the olden days, people used to have to make their own hot ends, and so, it's becoming even more and more commercialized now. And when, if you want to get into 3D printing, or if you wanted to get into 3D printing in the olden days, it was necessary for you to go through a very steep learning curve, learning about all of the different things, all of the different mechanics of it, so that you could service it yourself, you could deal with problems, you could get that perfect print by calibrating it correctly, and dealing with any issues that came up. And so it was a real tinkerer's hobby. It was something where, if you like mucking around with things, you could tinker with it, and you could make upgrades, and you could do all that sort of stuff. Now, if you're not a tinkerer, you just want to print things, whether they be downloaded off Thingiverse, or whether they be stuff that you make in a 3D modeling app, and you want to print out your own 3D objects, but you don't want to really get into the nitty-gritty tech side of the hardware. There are options these days. There didn't used to be, but these days you can buy these printers where you literally take them out of the box, you plug them in, load up some filament, and you start printing. Just as simple as that. You could download something off Thingiverse and just away you go. Now, that doesn't suit everyone. It's for some people out there that are the enthusiast side of things, that really like the tinkering. If you've got this printer which is not conducive to tinkering, it's just a printer, then some people aren't going to be particularly happy with that. And I have to say that with this K1 printer, for my purposes, I'm not sure it would necessarily be one that I would buy, because it is aimed more at the straight out of the box market. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to use it. I certainly am. I mean, the speed is astonishing. And if you are doing 3D printing from a sort of practical standpoint, so in other words, I'm I need a bracket for this thing and I need to print it as quick as possible, then having a fast printer is fantastic. Or if you're going to start making things and then selling them, making 3D objects and then selling those 3D prints, speed is excellent. You get those things printed out fast. It sort of, time is money. But yeah, I mean, so far the K1 has just been amazing. I haven't had any problems with it. Maybe others have, I'm not sure. I will certainly be investigating that as part of my review. Just want to get some solder out of this hole, and I'm going to do it from the other side. It's that one there. So as you can see, we're sitting on a great big slab of copper here because this is ground, and so I'm having a little bit of trouble getting heat flowing through that enough for me to get that solder out. And now I've lost my... There, a solder wick. There we go. Where'd it go? This one. There it is. So what I may end up having to do with this to get the solder all the way out, if this doesn't work, I may end up... Oh, it worked. So everything is fine. All piece to wall. There you go. Everything is great. A lot of that noise is the fan. It has to cool the parts on the bed faster if it's laying new layers on top of them faster. Yes, you're right. The cooling fan is massive on this thing, the parts cooling fan. And because it's so fast, the parts cooling fan can't be on the print head because it would be too heavy. So the parts cooling fan is actually mounted on the side, blowing in sideways like that. And it's a monster fan. And it is loud. But, again, it's these are the trade-offs. I mean, someone told me that the Bamboo Labs, was it the fancy Bamboo Labs one? I can't remember what it's called. Someone's telling me that's bloody loud. So, yeah. But just to put it into perspective for anyone who may not be particularly familiar with 3D printing, they generally work in how much filament they can extrude and as they travel along, and they generally measure them in speeds and millimeters per second. The first 3D printer I bought, which is an Ender 3 V2, it gets around about 60 millimeters a second, and you can maintain pretty good quality with that. Yes, you can tinker with it, you can maybe speed up here and there, but on the whole, that's kind of like the default setting is 60 millimeters a second. I've made upgrades to mine. I can print at about I can get all the way up to like 180 millimeters a second with mine, but I typically print at about 120. But anyhow, this new printer, this K1, it can print at 600 millimeters a second. So, zippy zip. All right, here's our little 3 in a row, guys. Oh, where's my scalpel? Where's my scalpel? Where is my scalpel? I haven't needed it so far, which has kind of been unusual. I've got a scalpel blade here. I can just use that, but I prefer it with the handle. Oh, I know where it is. I opened up a bag of chicken food with it the other day, and it's here. Yes, sirree. Just going to get some of this burn stuff off here. Just a little bit of burned plastic at the bottom of this connector. And by doing that, you won't see it. Alright, now let's get some... There we go. Let's get some flux onto here and clean these up. These are cleaning up really well. They don't always. And interestingly enough, this is an area, this particular zone we're around here, it's really common for there to be some incredibly bad corrosion around here. And it's really not too bad. Let's get rid of the solder ball there. So I'm feeling good about that. Jay's here. Rob T, hello there as well. Derek Witt, hello. So let's see if we can make this look a little less crusty and a little more shiny. And all ready for us to put some new caps on. Have I got a case down here? Oh yeah, I do. That's my one. Cool. I still haven't finished fixing that SE30 that I did all those videos on, like 4 or 5 parts or something like that. I managed to get it. I could boot into System 6, but not into System 7. I could boot with the original ROM, but I couldn't boot with the aftermarket ROMs, and I think that is because it's failing at self-test. Now it works even less than it did before. So, I mean, I know what needs to be done, and I know it's going to take time and all that sort of stuff, but, you know, there's a certain point where you kind of go, well, you know, I could do a lot of recapping in the time that it takes to work on that computer. Got a little bit of gunge here I'm going to have an investigate of. I'm going to have a look at. Where's Mr. Steve? Mr. Steve Mac 84. He never misses the opportunity to see an SE30 get recapped. What's going on with him today? There's some ugliness. But we've got copper underneath it, so I don't think we need to do any trace repairs there. Oh, geez, that's a bit nasty. Have a look at. Oh, God, got to get further down. There we go. Where was it? I've lost it already. Come on. Oh, there it is. So right here, it's pretty crusty. Just there. And I'm kind of tempted to put a little bit of wire on that. Just see how thin that is there. I don't know, it's a little bit hard to see. Let me just get a Q-tip cotton bud thingy. See that? You see that? I definitely think that it would be the prudent thing to do to get a little bit of wire on that. Assuming I can't build it up with solder. Oh, that's right. Steve's at Sean's, Action Retro, Sean's place. Yes, he did tell us about that. Fair enough. I did a very brief little cameo in Sean's latest video. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it now, but later. And you don't even have to watch the whole thing. I'm right at the beginning. We have fun. Us crazy Mac people. Sean really likes to stick Linux on things, doesn't he? Your best work yet, hands down. Oh yeah. It took all of my years of training in order to pull that one off. Gunge is the gaseous stuff, scunge is the liquid stuff. So gunge is solid. No, the gaseous stuff is punge. So gunge is the dry stuff, scunge is the wet stuff, and punge is the gaseous stuff. That's the system that I made up. I think with the help of Dana. Even he forgets. Possibly Jay helped too. Nice. That'll do. It doesn't have to be perfection. Just needs to be continuous. Oh, geez, I tell you what, people get upset when I do what I just did then. I like the way I cut with this with the scalpel like that. I'm like, don't do that. Well, it just did, so nah. Right, let's get over here and clean. Jankiness with a happy ending. It was what year model was it? I know it was an aluminum. It was an aluminium iMac, but they go back to what, about 2007 or something? Oh, sorry, just bumped my microphone. That's a first, because I'm not used to having it there. I have so many of those old aluminum Macs. So many of them. I just kept on getting them, and I just couldn't resist them. I'm like, oh, no, I can't throw it away. I've got to keep it. I've just been given a Mac Plus. I don't have much time to work on it right now, but is there any batteries in them that I should quickly remove? Yes, so Nate has answered that. It is in the case, unlike the models that came after them, the Mac Plus and the 128K and the 512K. They have a little battery compartment at the rear. Also be aware that there is a case screw underneath that little cover, battery cover. It looks like a 1.5 volt AA battery. It is not. It's a really weird battery. It's like AA132 or some crap like that. I don't remember. It's a 4.5 volt battery. Apparently 1.5 volts will work in there and keep the time. So I've never tried, but apparently they will. 16 years old. Yeah, so 2007, that sounds right. I've got stacks of those things. I don't have the really big ones. I've mainly got the smaller model, whatever size it was, 21. I don't know. I keep bumping the microphone. Sorry, people. I have to get used to this. And just letting you know, with the Mac Plus, there's a very good chance it'll just work. A lot of the time those Mac Pluses do just work without any sort of recapping or anything like that. But the other thing I would say with a Mac Plus, if it doesn't work, the things you want to check, specifically the logic board, you almost definitely know to have a problem. No surface mount electrolytic caps. It's got a few axial electrolytic caps. No real rush to change them. I mean, just keep on keeping on. You might want to give the board a bit of a clean, check it for any corrosion, anything like that. Generally, with the Mac Plus, the problems are on the analog board, and they are usually associated with cracked joints, cracked solder joints that have just occurred over time. So you need to replace the solder on particularly the connectors, like this connector. Oh. So this should be on the back of a monitor, but it's not. So you've got that connector that goes into the board, and then there are like pins on the board, and check the solder joints on those. So definitely need to check solder joints. And then if it's still not working, check out some of the resistors down the bottom of the analog board. Check out some of the diodes. They're going to be your most likely candidates. I did have one just recently that had a failed capacitor, and it had failed short. It was an electrolytic capacitor that had failed short, and that's very uncommon. Electrolytic capacitors usually fail open, but this one did not. But anyhow, it was fixed. It's working. That is working now. Everyone's happy. So, yes, I'm fine. How are you? Yes, the old C1 as well. Definitely worth checking that. I've replaced a few of those. I mean, a lot of the time I replace them as preventative maintenance rather than them actually having failed. But yeah. RRR just went off air. That's Retro Repair Roundup, is it? Was that on today? I don't really follow that very much, sorry. I used to watch it, but one of the issues I have is that it's on Monday morning my time, and that is usually a very busy time for me. I'm usually catching up on all the weekend crap, going through emails and stuff, so I don't really get to see it very often. I know I should watch it on the replay, but I often don't. And so, yeah, I wasn't actually aware. I'm not even sure. When is it on? Is it on like every 2 weeks or something? Or is it every week? I'm not sure. I know I have enjoyed it. And the funny thing is that even though I do YouTube videos, I don't watch many. I don't have a whole lot of spare time. When I have spare time, I'm sort of making videos, not watching them. All right, well, that's all of them cleaned. I do want to get over here and put a little bit of UV solder mask on that repair that I did. It's unusual value for an electrolytic. It's 3.9 microfarad, and it's bipolar. Yeah, I know. And so I replaced those with, the film caps. Yeah, I keep a supply of those in case they're needed. But yes, C1 is an odd cap. There's no doubt about that. But we don't discriminate against caps around here, so we are a cap-inclusive channel. I have managed to remove my own wire. I cleaned a little too good. So we're going to have to do that again and then clean it again. There's probably enough solder there so that the wire's not needed. But we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Yeah, look at that. I've built up this little channel of solder there. How cool is that? My guess is I probably didn't get the wire hot enough for the this enamel to come off and then get that solder properly permeating that wire. Getting really joiny. Okay. I'll need to do the rest with tweezers because this is hot. Nice bit of gunk in there. Hello, chicken. How are you today? Little white chicken just came in to visit me. She's the smallest chicken we have, so she cops a fair bit of crap from the other chickens because chickens are assholes. Just in case no one ever told you that. Try it again. This time I might be a little bit more careful while I'm cleaning. Because why not? Pecking order is very real. Gentle. Gentle. I really need to have these. There we go. I made 3D printed a new stand for this this monitor the other day. I 3D printed one before, but it was a little bit short, so I've got a taller one now. Look at that. Look at the way the camera gets the Vivor logo. Vivor. I'm releasing another video today. It's a short one. It's a 3D printing based one, but it's very unusual for me to release so many videos in such quick succession. I've learned a lot on soldering from watching you. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really like soldering. It's something I definitely enjoy doing. And I think it probably has to do with, I guess, learning to get it to do what you want it to do, and then that then comes quite rewarding once you get to the situation where you're doing stuff and it's all behaving the way you want it to. It's good. So I've got to put a capacitor, well, two capacitors, one there, and one there. And we've got all this exposed copper here, so I will feel a lot better about painting this over with some UV solder mask and sealing it up. That's why I was cleaning it, because if you paint this on where there's flux, it won't stick good and proper. You don't want to paint this stuff on too thick, because otherwise you won't be able to get it to dry all the way through. So you're better off, if you need it thick, do a few layers. And one as small as this, it will dry very, very quickly. Just get my little UV laser. And I was at my local hardware store the other day, and they had a UV torch there, or flashlight as you guys call them. I was like, oh, if I had a bit more money, I probably would have bought it just to try it out. Bruce is very old. Where's Fables 21? I don't see. Let me go up. Missed it. Fables 21. Hello there. Answering someone. Hi, I'm new to the channel and just started to get into tinkering DIY. How many years have you been soldering for? Well, technically, if you look at it from like when I very first used a soldering iron, I very first used a soldering iron, and it was one of those big old clunky all-in-one things. When I was very young, probably, I don't know, maybe 10, maybe even younger than that. Learned a few valuable lessons about extreme heat. And I have always then just had soldering there as a thing that would need to be done every now and again, do a few repairs here and there. Soldering iron would come out. I ended up with a soldering station rather than the soldering iron. But the amount of time that would go between me not using it was long enough for the tip to corrode. So, and then so it was about 7 or 8 years ago, something like that. I recapped an SE30 after finding out it needed to be recapped. I did a terrible job. The soldering was atrocious. But it worked, and I was very, very proud of myself, and it was all great. Then after that, I then got hold of a 17-inch MacBook Pro for really cheap. And I just like, wow, this thing's awesome. And it didn't work. And I did a search and I found Lewis Rossman's videos, and he explained that these had a fault in them and that they could be repaired. I had to replace a particular component. I got hold of one of those components and I repaired this 17-inch MacBook Pro. And the feeling of pride and joy about having this broken computer that I got for cheap and then turning it into a fully functional, it was a Intel Core 2 Duo 3 gigahertz. So, and, you know, obviously 17-inch. I just loved it. Loved this big old laptop. This is some years ago, so it still functioned quite well at the time. And then that just got me into it. So I started then, you know, sort of getting hold of busted computers and repairing them, honing the old soldering skills. I found ways that I like to solder that weren't necessarily the same as everyone else's. I have a particular way of soldering which a lot of people, well, certainly some people, disagree with me about, but I like soldering that way. It works for me. And then I kind of got a bit tired of working with the new Macs because I was having a lot of trouble finding decent ones to repair. A lot of the ones I was getting hold of, someone had already had a crack at repairing them themselves, and that was just a nightmare. So I then started turning my attention to vintage Macs. I went back to the SE30 that I did as my very first recap many, many years ago, and I looked at it and went, this is terrible. So I went in and redid it and made it look much better. But yeah, I like doing it. The worst thing that happened to me when I was a kid with the soldering iron, I was soldering on the floor, and I left the soldering iron on the floor, and then I stepped on it, and it. If you imagine that was the soldering iron there like that, and that was my foot, and these are my toes. It went right up in between the little slot between my toes and everything, and I burned myself very badly, and I learned a very valuable lesson. But yeah, that was a nasty, nasty burn. But I think I've said this many times in my live streams, but these days I generally don't burn myself on the soldering iron. I'm more likely to burn myself on something that has been made hot by the soldering iron. So I sort of burn myself on bits of solder wick or caps that have come off or something like that. That's much more likely to happen with me these days. Okay, so we have got a bit of UV mask there. I'm just going to dry that last layer, and then I'm ready to put a cap on it. I'm probably going to have to put this cap on and this cap on in a slightly different position. I might do it for all three, because that way it won't stand out. I'll just put them a little bit further up than I normally would. So this is UV solder mask. It is basically this green substance that you paint on as a liquid and then you dry it with ultraviolet light. I have in my hand an ultraviolet laser, and it works quite quickly. If you're using not a laser, like just a ultraviolet torch or flashlight or an ultraviolet light of some sort, it would take a lot longer. If you really want to dry these in a hurry, use the sun. If you get the sun, and even if you get like a magnifying glass, just sort of concentrate the sunlight a little, not too much. You don't want to burn holes in the board. You can dry this stuff really, really quickly. This typically takes about a minute, I suppose, to dry it. Use the small caps. I don't actually have any small caps in 47s. I've only got the same size for 47. Got some small caps for others, but not for the 47. I think they're all 47s except for one, which is a 1 microfarad 50. I will double check because I do sometimes make mistakes because I am very old. Hello? Can you speak louder, Sonny? I regularly comment to people that as old as I am, my hearing is the one thing that still works properly. More powerful UV torch. I mean, there are some pretty powerful little UV ones. I have a UV light here, and it's a 10 watt, I think, and they have a 30 watt version of that, and I'm tempted to get that one day just to see how that goes. But in the meantime, it's doing good. This should be all solid now. I'll just check. Solid. It does help apparently to give a little bit of heat as well. A little bit of heat. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Right, so let's start putting some caps on this. So I do have capacitors here for it. I'm replacing the electrolytic with tantalums. Geez, I need more. I'm running low. Probably only got 2 or 3 more recaps in this little lot. Let's go 1, 2, 3. As usual, I don't try not to take them all out at the one time because I have a tendency to lose them on the desk. Now, some people might say it's just because my desk is so messy, but we all know the truth. It's because of the capacitor fairies that come in and steal my capacitors. Can't really put that cap too high up. So let's see. I might even be able to just keep it where it is. It just won't be flush. What, like that? Like that. Yeah, bloody capacitor fairies. 3 to 4 centimeters, a lot of LEDs on it. Seems to work pretty well. Yeah, well, that's good. If this one wasn't piling a whole bunch of stuff, I'd have a look at it. but I can't. It's piled under a bunch of stuff and it'll involve getting up. But I can't remember if that is just one big LED or it's a whole bunch of little ones. There are more products these days coming out that use UV light to cure them. And so I think, you know, we'll start seeing a lot more UV lights, you know, little handheld UV lights for curing things. Okay. Get these lined up. And I managed to move it. Not happy, Jan. I've got to keep these straight, because if they're not straight, you look at it from a distance and you go, ah, that's not straight. Can't be having that. Fishing lure ties use UV glue. Joe is here. Hello there, Joe. Thank you for joining. It has been a very busy day for live streaming today. We had Grudy doing a video. We had Retro Repair Roundup, and then I come in as well. The airwaves are definitely getting full. It's a good job we can actually go back and watch these things again. That's all I can say. There we go. Come on. There we go. All right, so there we've got those three on. And even though this one here is sort of balanced on a bit of UV solder mask here, it looks fine. It doesn't look all too wonky. Got to make sure we don't get any OCD people checking these out, because this one here has a little date code on it of 209, and this one's got a date code of 239. That could send someone's brain, you know, whirring. I mean, I'm struggling with it. It's not even my computer. I was very, very OCD when I was young, but I grew out of it. So, I mean, there's still a little bit of it there. Every now and again, there's just a little trace that just pops up. But when I was younger, it was actually crippling, really crippling. Massive impact on my life. But it sort of went away as I got older, which is nice. As I say, little remnants of it appear every now and again, but nothing like it was when I was young. You could take me minutes to switch off a light, because it just had to be done right. Or close a cupboard door, something like that. Heaven help you if you put on a sock and you could feel a little lump in the side or something like that. I mean, no. Rudy, hello there, Rudy. Welcome. So just a recap for anyone who has joined just recently, I am recapping, recap on the recap. I am recapping an SE30 here, one of the many that people keep sending me. This one apparently did work, and then the power supply apparently did a magic smoke thing, but the owner of this board is repairing the power supply themselves, which of course I encourage. If you are confident in doing the repairs, I always encourage people to do it themselves. I'm not precious about, sort of people having a crack themselves. I think it's really, really good. Don't break things though, that's all I would suggest. If you're not sure, if you need practice on something that's not important, like an old PC or a new PC. Just practice on a PC, don't practice on a Mac. I was working on an LC630, and I needed, because I needed to test the power supply and I needed to test the logic board that I had recapped. And my LC630 case is not in the best condition because I'm sure everyone knows that there was a certain era in Apple's history where they were using a particular plastic combination which goes very brittle as it gets older. And it happened... It happened... Well, in between like the LC3 and the LC475, because I think the LC3 is still pretty solid, but the LC475 is brittle. So whatever that era is. The LC630 is right in the middle of that. And the problem with the LC630, it's held together with all these plastic panels. On all those plastic panels, they held on with these little tabs that you sort of like, you lift up and clip into place. And of course, none of those tabs really work anymore. Now, when you go to lift them up or move them, they just snap off. And anyhow, my LC630 got dropped once upon a time, so it shattered into a squazillion pieces. But what I find funny about it now is whenever I work on that LC630, there's a very, very familiar sound of working with it. Every time you move it, a little bit more plastic falls off it. So it's just, you're constantly hearing the sound of little bits of plastic just raining down either inside it or on the floor or whatever. You just move it a bit and you just hear all the plastic. Atari used that plastic as well. That's a shame. So that's the joy of some of those older computers. I mean, if you look at things like the Performer range, all of the Performers, they're all made out of brittle plastics. And it's really sad because it also makes it very difficult for people who maybe want to collect them, because if you want to get one from somewhere else in the world, I mean, I had someone ship me a Quadra 840 AV recently, and that's a classic brittle plastic computer. And in transit, one of the new bus cards fell out and was bouncing around inside it. And it managed to knock bits of plastic off from inside while it was in transit. It also managed to knock off a capacitor, but that was okay. I could put that back on. I can repair the capacitor falling off, but I can't repair the plastic. I mean, the Quadra 840 AV has a metal case. So you can kind of hold the thing together when the metal case is on. But once the metal case comes off, it's just so brittle. But anyhow, I'm working on a video on that at the moment. I've recorded quite a bit so far. I've got a little bit more to record, and then I'll be releasing that. It's the restoration process of a Quadra 840 AV, and I have to say, it is running beautifully. Apart from the fact that I'm not getting any power, any termination power to the external port. Well, I'm getting some, but not all. I don't know what's going on there. Termination power is fine on the internal port, but on the external port, it doesn't have enough power to fire up a Blue SCSI. So I have to run external power for that. So I don't know what's going on there, and I don't know if I've got the energy to investigate it. But other than that, it works beautifully. And I have to say, I do like the Quadra 840 AV. Now, I'm going to have a quick look at a recapping guide here, because I just want to make sure that I don't go ahead and recap this how I remember it, if I've remembered it wrong. Here we go. So, resources. Recapamac.com.au, SE30, and we have one microfarad 50 and all the rest of 47s. Yes, I got it right. So, I'll stick the 1 microfarad 50 on now, because... How come? Because... Okay, just flick back into the software here. Yeah, people are going to have to devise new... Well, I've got an LC3 logic board with no case. Now, I don't know what happened to the case, but there's no case. And I am planning to make a replacement case. It won't be the same, because that's a bit too big for me to 3D print. All of my 3D printers have the same size print bed. It's about 220 by 220. I can go up to about 280. So I've got a limited amount of space there. For any case that I build, I'll probably have to build in parts. Alright, so this is the little 1 microfarad 50 volt. I used to always use larger capacitors than this, but then I found it's just a lot easier to use these small ones. Well, they're the same. They work the same, just different size package. That's what they call it in electronics, package. Hello to anyone who is watching this on the replay. Always like to give a shout out to people watching it on the replay. Please feel free to say hello in the chat. Always appreciate it. LC2 mainboard, I'm thinking of case replacements. Yeah, so the LC2, yeah. So one of the things that I don't like about the LC2, don't get me wrong, I like the LC2. I have several of them. Is that one here? No, that's a 3. I have quite a few LC2s. For a while there, they just seem to be coming my way for no apparent reason. And they're cool, but they have a RAM limitation on them. A fairly significant RAM limitation on them. And the LC3, I like them because you can put a lot more RAM into them. The LC2 was when Apple got a bit stingy and they made it so that you could stick a floating point unit on it. But they decided not to stick a socket there. But you can solder on a socket, and I have done that many times, and then stick your own FPU there. I've done that with every LC2 I own, because why not? I want the FPU. I need that power. Got to be going around calculating non-integer numbers. Fast. Sure, there was some software back in the day, and I don't remember what it was. There was some software back in the day that would not run unless you had an FPU installed. You used to boot it and it would say, unable to run, no FPU detected. And so someone created a plugin called Software FPU or Soft FPU, something like that. This is delving right back into my long time ago memory, so please excuse any inaccuracies. The software Soft FPU, you would install it and it would trick the computer into thinking you had an FPU, but it was actually just using the normal CPU and not an FPU. So, 36 megs of RAM on LC3. Yeah, I think it's 10 limit on the LC2, isn't it? Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 10 is the maximum you could put. I think it has 2 on board or something like that, and you could stick 2 4s in there to get 10. Something like that. Something like this. This SE30 is in incredibly good condition, I should mention. I do expect this just to work once I have finished recapping it. It will, of course, get washed, but I will test it before washing it, because I don't want everyone to have to sit there and wait for an ultrasonic cleaner cycle. This board I'll probably give about 15 minutes per side based on the condition of it. And then it will be rinsed and dried. And they really do come up looking like new when you ultrasonically clean them. It's very, very rewarding when you're dealing with these old computers. The soft FPU is meant to redirect 68K FPUs to the PPC. Maybe it is. It could be it. And but I do remember the error, and I remember solving it with soft FPU, and that could have been it. It could have been something to do with the PowerPC computing. It's really interesting. This is something that I was thinking about, and I know we've probably talked about this on the MacYak show, but when Apple went from 040 to PowerPC back in whenever, 90s, it was kind of clunky. You could buy a computer that with an 040 that had a big sticker on it saying ready for PowerPC, because it'd have a processor direct slot, and you could get a 601 accelerator and put it in there. And then the very first PowerPCs, like was it 601? Is that it? That had, was that 6100? That's the computer, I think. 6100, which had the 601 in it. it was not particularly impressive from a speed perspective. Yes, if you got hold of PowerPC written software running on the PowerPC computer, it was faster. I accept that. But at the time, there were so many computers there's so many applications that weren't using the PowerPC yet, and you really didn't get a particularly big speed boost. And I look at that, and Apple have clearly learned from this in their rollout now of Apple Silicon, because what a difference it is that we basically we went from a situation where you went from Motorola to PowerPC, and you weren't really getting that much of a speed boost at that time. They got faster, I accept that, but whereas when you compare, like if someone like me who's an Intel user then upgraded to Apple Silicon and just blown away by the speed, absolutely blown away by it. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Apple have been using their own silicon for their phones and their tablets for such a long time that it's allowed them to really refine that transition process so they were ready to roll, and you end up with a very noticeable improvement. You end up with less power consumption and more speed from these new Macs, whereas that was definitely not what the old PowerPC rollout was back in the day, I can tell you that. Hateful Teddy Bear, hello there. How is the recap going so far? So far, it is going very well. This is the last cap, believe it or not. So we have, when I say we, I mean me, but, everyone else has been watching. I have removed the old caps, cleaned all the pads, did one tiny little trace repair, probably not necessary, more of a precautionary thing, just here where you can kind of see that green just around here, little trace repair just there. We have put on all the replacement capacitors. I think I've got all of them. I do sometimes forget them, but they're there. I will go through and check to make sure they're all looking right, because check your work, I always say it, check your work, check your work, check your work. Yeah, okay, plus. Always check the polarity. Yeah, plus. Okay, they're good. They're all on, and I always check to make sure I've soldered both sides. Because sometimes I solder a whole stack from one side, and then I come back and I do the second side. And if I forget to do the second side, then I just feel stupid. Okay, so now we've just got a couple of axial caps we want to put in there. So there was so little released in PowerPC native, it was torture running on a 6100. Even an 8100 was not great for a year or two. Yeah, and what a contrast to Apple's rollout of Apple Silicon now. I went from a 12 core 3.1 whatever gigahertz Intel Mac Pro, beefy piece of hardware, and I moved across to a Mac Mini 2023 with an M2 Pro chip in it, and it just ran rings around the old computer. I mean, it's so much faster. How significant is an FPU processor upgrade? I don't know. I've never I can't really say that I've ever used any software where I've gone, oh yeah, big difference, FPU in there. You see it when you do a speedometer test and everything, but yeah. So I don't know. Not much is the answer. I don't know. I mean, maybe probably with the right software. I mean, maybe if you're in Photoshop and you're doing a Gaussian blur or an unsharp mask, you might see a difference. But I mean, this is something that was the Geekbench that I used to always do whenever I was working with computers. If someone brought out a new computer, the very first thing I would do is I'd open up a file in Photoshop and do an unsharp mask. The amount of time that it took, that was my gauge for how fast that computer was. Because, you open up a decent-sized JPEG image. First of all, JPEGs used to take forever to open, but once you had it open, you would, an unsharp mask, he was just sitting there watching a little progress bar move across. Very, very different now. We didn't work with JPEG much at the time, even though we were well aware of its compression capabilities. It was faster for us to just save in like a TIFF format. with no compression because it saved so much faster because it didn't have to go through that compression process. Now you have a look at a computer, you open up a web page, it has to expand, I don't know, 50 JPEGs instantly before it can load the page, and the computer just does like that. Right, I've got to find some caps here. I need to find my axials, and I haven't used them in a while, so I think they're going to be buried under things. Oh, ouch! I just banged my head. Alright, now I think they're down here, and I think they're very bottom. So, I'm going to make those noises again. Hello? No, it's not you. Is it you? Yay! This one's not even that hard to get hold of. I need to try and come up with some way of storing these containers, like on the wall or something like that, where they're more accessible, because at the moment they are very not accessible. Remember PCX format. PCX. Not really. Maybe. I'm not sure. It doesn't ring a bell. So the main formats that we used in pre-press, there was TIFF, tag image file format. There was EPS for all the vector art. And then, of course, we had DCS, digital color separations. And so the way that worked is because the networks were so slow back then, rather than you have your high-res files being sent to the printer to print, what you would do is you store your high-res files on a server, on the print server or whatever, and then you would just work with a preview, like a thumbnail. So you do all your page layout with your thumbnail, and then when you went to go print it, it would just print and it would just send the thumbnail. Then it would get to the print server would detect that you had a thumbnail in place. It would then replace it with the high-res file stored on the computer. And so it enabled you to print a lot faster because the high-res stuff was stored at that location. But it just meant that if you didn't have the high-res files there, if something went wrong, you would go and print the thing and then low-res stuff would come out. And that was interesting because these days you wouldn't worry about it. Networks are so fast. These are just images. But back then, it was a big deal. Supported by Print Shop and PageMaker. Oh, gosh. See you, Rudy. Thank you very much for joining. There was also another file format that we used for a little while called RIF, Raster Image File Format. That's a very obscure one. It was used by some software that I used to use called Image Studio, and another one called Color Studio. They were 3D, sorry, what do you call them? Retouching. They were like Photoshop. And they were around before Photoshop. And when Photoshop came out, I was like, Photoshop, we don't need it. We've got these other applications. Photoshop is too late to the party. They're never going to take off. But I was wrong. But because I used to work in that industry, I still don't refer to things as photoshopping them. I call them retouching, because that's what we used to say. Where's my SE30? We're getting into the SE30 section now. Okay, so we need 470 and 220. Wonder how the chickens are doing. Let's have a look. There's one just here. I'm not even sure. Let's have a look. We got. I'm not even sure if the camera's working at the moment. Let's try. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's a chicken. Hello, chicken. So that's the blind one that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there. She don't see too good. And then I've got my 3D printed feeders up there. But there's only 2 in here at the moment. The other 3 are actually on the other side of the fence. They've just recently got very, very good at jumping the fence. And I will probably have to clip some feathers because I don't actually like them being on this side because they poop everywhere. What have we got there? I have this horrible feeling like I don't have any 220s. 10 microfarad. Sometimes I have too many and they overflow, so that's 470. This is going to suck. I'm not going to be able to finish this recapping job. We can still test it without these caps on, but so we can test it. But I'm going to have to order some more 220s. I had no idea I was so low. Well, that's a poop. Bummer. Bummer. I made a 3D printed a little CRT glass tube cover. I know you wanted to do this, so I can share it with you. Well, thank you very much, Kyle, but you're too late. I've already made one. Yeah, I did that just recently. So it's a little tube that you just sort of slot over the back there. If the case isn't on, the end bit isn't on, just to protect the little glass nipple. So thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I'll be very interested to look at yours compared to mine. But yeah, I did actually make one just the other day. Plus, I don't know where it is. I'm sure I brought it down here. It's either down here, or I have a little spot up on the corner of the table in the dining room where I put things that need to be brought down here. It needs to go to the workshop section. All right, let's get some bendies. I do actually have a 3D printed device for bending these pins at exactly the right location. But it's sitting on my desk inside. And I'm way too comfortable to get up and get it. All right. Here's the capacitor. This is probably I wouldn't bet on it. I've made mine very simply. Mine is very, very basic. I'm not sure I would go as far as to say that mine is better than anything, really. And let's face it, there's not a whole lot of geometry involved with something circular like that, but this is the issue with this new microphone that I'm using. The wire goes down my back, and I keep sort of getting it stuck behind the chair. I might end up having to run the wire down under my shirt or something. But it is, so far I'm happy with it. I've whacked it a few times because I'm not used to a microphone being so close to my mouth. I go scratch my beard or something like that, and then I whack the microphone. So I apologise for that. But so far I'm pretty happy with it. I feel like it's a much better way. It means that while I'm working on the microscope or wherever I'm turning my head, you're still getting nice clear audio. So if everyone else is happy with it, I think I will keep using this one. It wasn't an expensive microphone by any stretch, but the fact that it is so close to my mouth means that it doesn't really matter that it's not an expensive microphone. The really dear ones that I use are ones that work better with a bit of distance from where your mouth is. So there's no, when you have good quality microphones, you can really tell the difference. I want to know what microphone Sean from Action Retro uses. He's got a good microphone. Good. Still coming in clear. That's what I like to hear. Hey, chicken. This one doesn't let me pick her up, so I can't really pick her up and show it to you. She's very flighty, this one. But you look healthy. Look at that beautiful comb. Yes, you do. You would like me to give you some food, wouldn't you? Oh, dear. Okay, all right, now, thinks it's erotic. All right, so I have replaced the cap. I haven't replaced this one because I've run out. I mean, I could just stick the old one back on for the moment, but I won't do that because you can actually run these without that cap. I think it's just like a filter cap, something like that. So the computer will work without that cap in place, but so we should be able to test it now. And then I will have to order those actual caps. Now, the problem I have with those is the place that I buy them from, they charge a mozza for delivery. Well, first of all, they're very expensive. They didn't used to be very expensive. They used to be competitive. But for some reason, they just suddenly went expensive to the point now that I just buy stuff from DigiKey. This is RS Components here in Australia. They used to be a really good price. They used to be competitive. I used to buy all my stuff from them, and then all of a sudden, and they were free delivery. Then all of a sudden, they started adding the cost of delivery, unless you spent more than $70, I think it was. But then the part prices just went up, just up and up and up and up, and I was ending up paying $4 for a capacitor that I was paying $2 for at DigiKey. So I was just like, no, you guys are just not competitive. But I used to get these axial caps from them. I can get axial caps from DigiKey. And here's the other thing. DigiKey's delivery is absolutely amazing. If I order a DigiKey order on a Monday, I will typically get it by Thursday. And considering that's coming from overseas, that's pretty darn impressive. And most of the time I'm getting delivery for free, because you only have to spend more than, I think, $50 to get a free delivery with DigiKey. So very happy with them. Cool. I'm just going to, I'm going to give you, Kyle, I'm going to give you admin access so that you can post links in the chat, because you can't post links in the chat unless you got the admin thing. So just hang on a sec. DigiKey never gives me free delivery. Really? Is that? I wonder if that's because I'm in Australia. Okay. So I've just made you a moderator, Kyle, so you should be able to post a link to your cover if you have one there to post. I'm curious as to why you don't get free delivery. Do they not have that break point where if you spend more than a certain amount, you get free delivery? That's a bit annoying. There we go. Here's the link. Let's see how erotic this is. I want to see how erotic this link is. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. May contain erotic or adult image. Oh, how funny is that? Hang on, let me just see if I'll just share my screen here for a sec. I find that most amusing. Yes, I'm over 18. Oh my god, that's erotic. That looks exactly like mine. I mean, seriously, the one I've got looks virtually identical to that. So I even did it in the same color filament. So there you go. Okay. All right. So, what did I just drop? Let's test this out. I'm going to stick a ROM sim in it. I'm going to stick a bit of RAM in it, and then we're going to fire it up and see if it goes bing. I might change glasses. These ones are good for soldering, not so good for this distance. There we go. Me. Sim. Oops. Then we have a bunch of Ramalams, Black Benny. What have I got? I've got 3 of that type. 3 of that type. No, 4 of that type. Okay. $3 of Picos and paid shipping. That's extortion. That's crazy. I wonder why we get free shipping. Maybe they're shipping from Asia or something. They might be coming in from somewhere in Asia, and it might just be closer to us or something. I don't know. That just seems absurd. $300 and they don't even give you free shipping. That's just stupid. Unimpressive. What about Mouser? Are they any better? I mean, I'd say I'm just a complete DigiKey convert now, because I don't have to pay delivery, and I usually get the package in. I mean, I did actually have one time where I ordered on Friday, and I got a delivery on Monday, which I just thought was when it turned up, I'm like, that can't be it. That can't be it. Right, now I need to make a bit of room here, because I've got to bring one of these great big bulky things. I haven't got my camera here at the moment. I'm sorry I don't have a side view. I normally have the side view camera so we can see the screen, so we'll have to just make do today. I don't have it because I've had all my cameras up there for video production this week. I've been making videos. There we go. This is my extension cable. I ended up making my own, this one here, using decent wire, because the other one I got, the other extension cable that I bought on eBay, it was cheap and nasty. Right, now let's get a speaker so we can hear it go bing. Here's a speaker. We won't be doing any sort of lengthy testing or anything like that, because I think all of my blue scuzzies and Zulu scuzzies and scuzzy twisties, they're all upstairs at the moment because I've been doing work up in the house. So I don't think I'll even be able to boot this, because I don't think I have an OS down here. A little bit remiss of me, I know. Alright, so I've got the board here, and let's go to front view. We might be able to at least get you to look at the screen. There we go. There we go. Oh, I've got a little bit of strobing going on there. Let's see if I can fix that. That strobing is me. Let's go this way. Getting better? Not getting worse. Got to go the other way. Yep. There we go. It's gone. Oh God, this cable. There's a problem. There's a problem. All right, I need to find some power. So I'm going to found here's some power. I keep power in this thing, so just for times like this. I'll plug it into the mains. Why would I have B written on that? Maybe it's mine. Branchus. I do tend to label things Branchus when they're mine down here. Okay, so we're ready for testing. If you're international, you get DHL free shipping if orders are over $50. It's right on their website. That's. I love the way you've done FSCK, which is for people who don't know, if you don't live in the Linux world, is what is it? Disk utility or something like that. Yeah, that's a real shame. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. All right, so I've got my speaker here. Got this. I'm ready to switch it on. Time to test. It might work. I hope it works. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Yep, nice little healthy chime there. And of course, then we wait to hear if there's any additional chimes, like a ding, 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 ding. No additional chimes. We've got ourselves a nice little healthy cursor there, so we know that the ROM has progressed to the stage where it rounds the corners of the screen, and we have. Geez, it's a bit bright, isn't it? I need to pull back that cutoff a little bit. Let's just turn the brightness down for now. Yep, there we go. Look at that. We've got flickering there because of the frame rate and everything like that. The camera that I normally have there, I can actually match to the frame rate, to the refresh rate of this. But as I say, the camera is not there. It's up in the house. So that's all looking good. Yes, I am well aware of the fact that I've done the geometry way too big on this screen, but I like it that way, and it's mine. All right. Well, thank you, Thomas, for joining. And, okay, so, well, that all went well. It's recapped. The downside is I've got to order some replacement axial caps. I've still got plenty of the 470s, but I seem to have completely run out of the 220s. Don't ask me why I ran out of one before the other, when I generally use them for the same recap jobs, but won't worry about that now. Yeah, that all went well. We'll give this a good old clean. I don't need to worry about putting that cap in before cleaning it, because I won't make a mess when I stick a through-hole cap in there. That's all nice and easy. You know, it's only the surface mount stuff that I put all the goop on the board, so I'll be able to just stick some, stick the new cap on there, and it'll all be good to go. So that all went well. I do hope you enjoyed this. This is going to be it for the live stream. I know it's not a particularly lengthy one. Oh, coming up for 2 hours. That's around about the normal length of time for mine. So, hello, chicken. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for keeping me company during this live stream. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for keeping the chat alive and lively. Please like the video. I haven't done the smash that like button. It's coming. Smash that like button. There you go. Please do like the video, and if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. I think that's about it. So I am hoping to probably live stream next weekend. I've got a video that I'll be releasing later today. It's a 3D printed related one, so it's not for everyone, I realise that. And then, of course, I've got some more 3D printer content coming out lately because I had just got myself a brand new Creality K1 3D printer, and I'm going to be putting that through its paces and then seeing how it goes. So thanks again to everyone. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye-bye.